Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Molero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys. Still fighting for truth, justice, and the fair tax way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've been doing this for quite a while, and we're slowly getting to where we need to be.
We are. We're getting more people. In fact, that's one thing I want to talk about right off the bat, is how we are attracting more people to the fair tax, specifically candidates.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts the other day, and Mark Levin was talking to Senator Mike Lee. They talked about a variety of topics, but then they skewed into, they went into taxation. They were talking about how there's a proposal on the part of the current administration to triple the budget of the IRS.
Mm-hmm.
Because they want to hire 80,000 more auditors. Okay, this is because they
what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, yeah, because everything is going so well at the IRS now. I mean, there's no abuses or anything like that. But
I wonder if they got money for their printer ink.
But yeah, for their ink, that would be interesting. Yes, maybe when they get this, if they get this triple budget, maybe they can actually find ink for their printers and copiers. That would be nice.
If you missed the reference, we referred to that on FAIRtax Power Radio a couple of weeks ago.
Yep. So, anyways, it was interesting as I listened to the podcast because they brought up some of the same subjects. For instance, Levin said, if the IRS comes after you, you're guilty. There's no presumption of innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that there's no, as far as the IRS is concerned, there's no Bill of Rights. I mean, out the window, okay? And they talked about the fact that it's not only a corrupt system, but it's a very inefficient system. There's a lot of evasion, and of course the evasion cost everybody. Well, then Senator Lee said, a couple of years ago we were having a hearing in one of the committees that he's on, and they had a man there who has his PhD in the current tax system. He's got a PhD in the U.S. income tax system.
Wow.
And Senator Lee asked him, do you do your own taxes? He said, no, never. He said, you've got a PhD in the income tax and you don't do your own taxes? Why? He said, because I could never be sure that I get it right. So I hire somebody else to make sure that I get it right.
So it's somebody else's problem if it's wrong.
Exactly. I think that's the real answer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think that's the real reason, let the IRS come down on somebody else, a professional who's supposed to know better, all right?
If you ask 50 of them, you get 49 different answers, too.
So anyways, they chatted about this for a couple of minutes, but I also noticed that between the two of them, very smart people, very accomplished, they didn't offer any solutions.
Nope.
Like a lot of people who complain about the income tax and the IRS, they groused about it, and then they went on to another subject and so forth, and they didn't offer any solutions. We are here to offer a solution, and part of the solution is getting more people in Congress that will not only promote but co-sponsor the fair tax legislation. And later on in this show, in a little while, we're going to interview one of those people who has signed the pledge and has agreed to, if he is elected to Congress, that he will co-sponsor the fair tax. So there is a solution out there.
Yes, and with another thing, we need to educate people like Levin on the fair tax, so he would just in there and bring that up.
Yep.
If it was on his mind, he'd have it. But
I know he knows about it. I have heard him talk about it, and he briefly referenced it in one of his books. So it's there, but not enough people are talking about it, as we know.
Okay. Well, now.
And now Bob's favorite portion here.
I love my favorite portion of FAIRtax Power Radio, our weekly delve into Congress.gov to look at some of the insanity that the Congress critters are trying to put into the tax code.
How do people look this up?
You go to Congress.gov, you put the words Internal Revenue Code in quotes into the search bar. Make sure you're looking only at legislation in the current Congress. Those filters are over on the left side.
Yep.
And if you do that, as of the day we're recording this, May 28th, 676 hits come back, and the first one is one I'm putting in the tax proposal Hall of Shame that we're going to go over at the end of the year when we do this. This is S 1892, a bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to modify employer-provided fringe benefits for bicycle commuting.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that's doing in the tax code?
First off, the fact that the federal government wants to get involved with people bicycling to work, okay? Can you get any more, abstract? But it says to modify. That means it's already in there.
Yeah, so there's some kind of employer-provided fringe benefits for commuting. I guess they want to make sure they include bicycle commuting. And
just amazing.
So that's
just amazing.
Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio. So that's we'll have to see what that's all about. We got to move on. I want to get to our interview with Reuben here in a minute.
Yeah.
HR 3552 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to provide, now get this, that floor plan financing includes the financing of certain trailers and campers.
Floor plan. I think that
this is one of the more insane weeks on finding stuff for the tax code.
Yeah, it is. But I think floor plan financing refers to dealers, companies who sell these campers and so forth, or whatever, or because I've heard of a floor plan, an automobile dealer. They will have a floor plan because they have to finance all the vehicles on their lots and so forth. I think that's what it refers to.
Well, we'll have to ask Jackie Walorski of Indiana. This is her bill. So whatever the Internal Revenue Code deals with floor plan financing for trailers and campers. Now, this is one, pay attention the first time. I'm only going to read it once.
Okay.
To amend the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1974, Title 27 of the Public Health Service Act and the Internal Revenue Code, to require group health plans and health insurance issuers to offering group or individual health insurance coverage, make them provide 3 primary care visits and 3 behavioral health care visits without application of any cost-sharing requirement.
And that's just the title.
That's just we don't have the text here. I can't really can't get into that yet. But then again, that's the government through the tax code and a couple of other acts as well, telling private businesses what they have to do.
Yeah. And it seems that the people in Washington just revel in being able to do that, and they use the tax code as a weapon to try to dominate life in America.
Oh, mercy. That's great. Okay, one more. HR 3538 to amend the Internal Revenue Code to enhance, here we go, Mr. Science Teacher, the carbon oxide sequestration credit.
Okay. Sequestration means absorbing it, getting it out of the air and so forth. Actually, I think we need to be careful. We don't want to get all of the carbon dioxide out of the air because then plants will die.
Yes, plants need carbon dioxide the way animals need oxygen.
Yes, and it's a nice symbiotic relationship there. The plants give off oxygen. We, the animals, breathe in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. There's a reason that the carbon dioxide concentration in the air is 0.03%, okay? 0.03%, because plants are very good at absorbing it.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to...
I have heard politicians talk about getting all the carbon dioxide out of the air. What are they thinking of?
They're not.
No, they're not.
They have no clue, but the Internal Revenue Code contains a carbon oxide sequestration credit, and Representative Tim Ryan wants to mess with it.
Yeah.
So that's our weekly foray into Congress.gov. We'll have some more really crazy stuff on next week's FAIRtax Power Radio. But right now we're going to get into the interview we referred to earlier. This is a young man. We've referred to him several times here on FAIRtax Power Radio, Reuben Young. We met him at CPAC.
Yep. Met
him again at the Candidates Symposium in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And we have just now decided, we have just now hooked up with him on a Zoom interview.
Yep.
And we're going to talk to him.
Yep.
All right.
Great.
So let's roll it. And FAIRtax Power Radio is pleased and honored to be talking with Reuben Young this afternoon. I see you're in your car. I hope you're not driving. you're pulled over.
I'm not. I done pulled over. I make sure I'm in a safe place. So good to go now.
All right. Well, appreciate you talking to us today. First order of business, of course, I'd like to thank you for supporting the FAIRtax and say it was really good to see you out there in Vegas a few weeks ago.
Man, you guys are some of my favorite FAIRtax guys, and I was so happy that when I got there to Las Vegas, you and Ron, both you and Bob was there, and I really appreciate that, man. I mean, the presentation you gave was outstanding. I mean, you know, a bell went off when you guys gave a little more, gave me a bit more information. So I'm behind the FAIRtax. When I make it to Congress, you all have my full support.
All right, appreciate it. Now, we're not going to get too hugely involved in campaigning here. We're going to try to keep things focused on the FAIRtax. But truth of the matter is, you're not really a household name yet. Hope you'll get there. But for people who aren't familiar with you, what is the one thing, if you could pick just one thing you wanted voters to know about you, what would that be?
I'm a very caring and very caring person. I go out of my way. I give you the shirt off my back, and I'm dedicated to the mission and the cause. I haven't taken a vacation since I started this journey in '87. So that's the kind of person I am. A person that you can count on in the trenches.
All right, well, good. I understand that you know, when we met you at CPAC earlier this year, back in February, you did not know anything at all about the FAIRtax at that point. Is that correct?
And that is correct. I had never heard of the FAIRtax, and I think I know a bit more than what I did back in February. So,
well, I'm curious, when we gave you our little 30-second elevator summary there at CPAC, what were your first impressions? What was your first thought of the FAIRtax based on that little bit we gave you to begin with?
Well, coming from where I grew up in Homestead, Florida City. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and where there's not much disposable income and people paying all these high taxes, paying taxes for pretty much everything. And when you all gave me that background about the FAIRtax, I never heard of it, but I was so with it when you first presented it to me. But it blew my mind. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It really blew my mind to know that people can keep more of their money.
Okay, I was wondering if you're going to think, hey, are those guys crazy, or have they got a really good idea here? I'm glad you came down on the good idea side and didn't think we were too awfully nuts here. Now,
well, you know what? I've been called crazy all my life, so welcome to the family.
At what point did you really become solidly sold on the FAIRtax? Was that the Vegas conference?
Yeah, the Vegas conference and the having an opportunity to continue to speak about the FAIRtax one-on-one with you and with Bob and the information that.
Okay, I am Bob. Ron's the other guy.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
With Ron and you, Bob. I mean, it was something that I was happy to hear more about the FAIRtax. And when I heard more about the FAIRtax, then I realized this is the way to go. The FAIRtax is what I'm supporting.
What do you think is the FAIRtax's strongest selling points?
Well, I mean, in my community, in the areas I grew up in, being able at the end of the day, when you file, you receive more of your disposable income. We have a lot of struggling people out here, and with the way the tax system is set up today, they don't get a chance to keep their money. They're taxed when they receive it, and at the end of the year, they're taxed again. And we have a lot of struggling people. We have single moms with children. We have people going through a lot of different financial stresses. And when the FAIRtax was presented in the way that you and Ron presented the FAIRtax, I was sold about how people can keep the money. We get rid of the Internal Revenue Service. We won't need them anymore, which I feel that's needed because the abuses that have gone on with the inside the IRS. We eliminate that, and we deal directly with those state governments that at the end of the day, people can keep more of their money. So I'm sold on citizens keeping most of their money.
I got to ask you, did you see Marissa Selvig's video that she did with her 13-year-old?
Well, if that's the lady that presented that video, that was a nice one. That was a very, very, very nice video.
A 13-year-old gets it. I get to keep my money.
You get to keep, I mean, I'm with that 13-year-old. You mean to tell me I get to keep my money? Wow.
So that's primarily how you plan to market the FAIRtax to the voters, is by letting them know that they can keep more of their money.
And that's what will be saying. I think I already started on some of my Facebook posting. I'm telling them that I support the fair tax, and I support the what the fair tax is trying to do. And I think that this country should now wake up and realize when a new idea is presented, we need to take full advantage of that, because this is not about me or you. It's about those struggling families, those single moms, those communities, poor communities that is being taken advantage of by the current taxing system.
Okay. Now, I read Jim Bennett's Grassroots Corner about you, where he mentioned your work in the inner cities with the court system down there. Touch on that a bit.
Okay, so I used to work. I worked for the courthouse back in 1986. That's when Richard P. Brinker was the clerk, and oftentimes I was I worked in the night court, the traffic division of the night court, and I would constantly see people coming in complaining about how they're being charged for minor offense and minor traffic offenses, and a lot of those people that was receiving those tickets by the police officers, those are the same type of struggling families that if we had a fair tax, it wouldn't be that kind of complaint or grumbling, because people have money when they come to the court. If they are charged $300 to $400, which a lot of them didn't have that money, but when you allow people to keep more of their income, the stress, the financial stresses become lessened. So, but at the same time, it was a good experience. I got a chance to get to know a lot of the people inside the courthouse, including judges. If you work along or work within that framework, I used to be able to go to a judge and say, Yana, I know this person, Yana, I know the situation behind that ticket, and I don't think that that person should receive that ticket. And the judge would say, hey, come on up here. And he said, based on what he said, case dismissed. And to me, that was a good way of ingraining myself, become a part of the court system where people began to know me. I became a union person within the courts, and I organized the way I brought people together. Bob, and you wouldn't believe it was a very good experience, because that courthouse was alive, and we started seeing the difference of how people respond when they come into the traffic system when they're confronted with that situation.
Okay, well, inner cities traditionally are really heavily Democratic. And the Democratic leadership, to this point anyway, has been fairly hostile to the fair tax. Do you think this might be a good way, that the fair tax might be a good way for someone to make inroads into that community? And you've already said you think the fair tax is going to be great for these folks because it lets them keep more of their money.
Well, like when you start talking about the inner city, that's what my heart is at. A lot of the conversations that I've been having is about our inner city. It's about being left out and being taken advantage of and being abused, especially by the Democratic Party. Because, I was a Democrat. I walked away from the Democratic Party because I didn't like the party platform anymore. And now to see how difficult that the Democratic Party have been fighting the fair tax, I didn't see anything wrong with the fair tax, because I think it'd be something that would benefit the inner city communities, especially those that don't have those jobs that they need to support their families. If I'm making $1, I don't need to give up $1. That's all I have. And under the fair tax system, if I'm making $1, at least I'll be able to keep some of that. I'll be able to keep at least half of the dollar, instead of giving the whole dollar to the state, or giving it to the federal government, or giving it to the Internal Revenue Service, which honestly, they don't care how they get the dollar. Sometimes when they want to collect their money, they go after these poor people and garnish their checks, or find ways of, taking properties away where knowing that they can't afford that. So I think the fair tax would benefit a lot of the inner city communities, and which is part of why I'm running, to bring relief to the inner city.
Real quickly, how has the fair tax message been received in the inner city so far? Are you finding that people like it?
Well, I find that people like the fact they can keep more of their money. I can tell you that, Bob. I can tell you, people like the fact they can keep more of their money. But it's resonating real well when you allow to go one-on-one and actually sit down and explain what the fair tax is. But when you first get into a conversation, it's a way the approach has to be: do you want to save some money? Do you want to keep more of your money? and you got to pique their interest. Once you get their interest, then they're more inclined to listen to what you have to say, because it's everything. Everybody want to keep more money. Everybody need more money, especially within the inner city. So it's coming across really, really well.
Okay, one more quick question. Our motto here on FairTax Power Radio is the FairTax. Once you understand it, you'll demand it. Have you met anybody that didn't like it?
No, not at this point. I have not met anybody that don't like keeping more of their money. I think that's a good slogan. Keep more of your money.
All right. Well, you and Marissa's daughter need to get together and make a video, and we'll play that here on FairTax Power Radio. All right. Well, again,
thank you.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us today. Thank you for support of the FairTax, and hopefully we'll be talking to you a bit later on in the election cycle.
I look forward to it. Thank you very much, Ron and Bob.
All right. You have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right.
And that was a fairly interesting conversation.
Yeah,
Reuben's a cool guy. I like to talk to him.
Yeah, and it was interesting that we interviewed him while he was in his car.
Yeah. Well,
He's probably in between campaign stops.
Yeah, he did pull over. He was not driving while he was talking to us. But he is the kind of success story that I hope will inspire other FairTax volunteers to approach candidates who know nothing about the FairTax. He knew nothing about the FairTax when he met us.
That's right.
And now he has signed the pledge and he's on board 100%. So the FairTax is an easy sell if people will just go out there and sell it.
And I like the comment he made, that the inner city is where his heart is.
Yeah.
And we've made the case before that better than any other tax plan, the FairTax protects the people that most need the help. Mm-hmm. All right? The working poor. It really does. The payroll tax, the current payroll tax, is the most regressive tax we have. And it hurts those people, okay? The FairTax will lift them out of that nonsense.
Yeah, well, if Reuben and other candidates like him can take that message into the inner cities, into traditionally heavily Democratic areas, and make it, hey, you can keep more of your money, and here's how you do it.
Yep.
So I'd still like to see Reuben and Marissa's daughter do a video together.
That would be good.
You can keep your money. So that'll work.
That would be good. So that was a good interview. All right.
Yeah, but I think he's really right to focus on the inner cities and people like that. There are a lot of people that live there. And there are a lot of people that because those areas are as heavily Democratic as they traditionally have been, have probably never heard of the FairTax.
Yep.
So that is a demographic, a group of people that we really need to get the message to, and we thank Reuben profusely for carrying it into there.
And the inner city we're talking about, I mean, he's in District 23 here in Florida. That's Miami. All right.
Yeah, it's between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, so
so that's a very, very heavily populated area.
Really blue district.
Yeah.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the current incumbent from that district. So hopefully Reuben can do well against her in the general election.
Yeah. So he's got a winning issue in the FairTax. So it was it was good to see how quickly he came on board. I mean, we had a very short time with him at CPAC, very short, but we planted the seed.
Yeah.
And then weeks later, when we met him at the symposium, and he heard us, and I have to give Bob credit for the presentation at the symposium. Bob made a great PowerPoint directed at candidates for office, okay? And he came up to us, I get it. We're sold. I'm sold.
Well, that sounds like that really validates our motto. Once you understand it,
you'll demand
it. And once Reuben got his mind wrapped around it, he saw it was a fantastic idea, would be a really good thing for the constituency that's closest to his heart.
And at the second symposium, we're going to have more people like working with us, promoting it with the other candidates.
Yes, well, hopefully we'll have that here coming up early part of July. We don't. Excuse me, I got something on my throat.
Yeah.
But we don't have an exact date on that yet or exact time. But we'll be bringing. Hopefully they'll let us. Remember what we did with Jade Wally when we went out to Oklahoma State,
right? And
did a FairTax Power Radio episode out of the Q&A session that all the students had.
That'll be good.
I think they're going to let us do that with these candidates down there. I'm not 100% sure on that, but hopefully we'll have a FairTax Power Radio, which is largely the Q&A session from from these candidates that we'll meet in Fort Lauderdale.
That's going to be good, and it'll be interesting on our part because you just never know what they're going to ask.
So that's not a rock solid promise at this point, but it's something we're really going to be working on. We got about 3 minutes left here, so we need to get into the call to action, which is
again. Please join the Americans for Fair Taxation. Go to fairtax.org, and when you get there, you'll see towards the bottom of the screen, get updates. Give them your information. You will not get spam when you give them your contact information. They never share or sell your information. And it is a national organization. They have quite a bit hefty expenses each month. Even though it's an all-volunteer organization, all right? So we also encourage you to go to fairtax.org/1040 and become a member of the 1040 Club, in which you commit to send them $10.40 a month. Those recurring donations are very important.
Yeah, and the way you get the fair tax implemented or anything like that is you change minds. You convince people that are against it that, wait a minute, this is such a good idea. So with that in mind, I would suggest that people go to whitehouse.gov/contact.
Yeah.
The current administration is not likely to be too overly friendly towards the fair tax, but if they get hundreds, we're working 500 volunteers at CPAC next year.
Yes.
That is. But if they get a lot of feedback on their contact page at the White House in favor of the fair tax, then they're going to have to take notice of it. And they'll be like Reuben. Once they figure it out, they'll think it's a good idea.
That's right. Yep. And Bob mentioned the Fair Tax 500. It's a race to the finish.
Yes.
All right. We need to get 500 volunteers showing up at CPAC next year. So the overwhelming number of people with fair tax gear on, wandering around CPAC and talking to the people in the media and the politicians, they're going to get the idea that this is serious. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. There are a lot of political people there. Of course, it is a partisan event. We won't gloss that over.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of political people there, a lot of media there.
Yeah.
And, Ben Ferguson was there. He saw our Fair Tax shirts and was really happy to see us.
Yep.
So there are people there that will be receptive to the Fair Tax message if there are enough people there carrying that message.
That's right. All right.
So
and mention again, we have a new storefront, an online storefront coming soon, all right,
Yes.
in which you'll be able to buy anything. I mean, just about anything. It's kind of like going to Walmart.com or Amazon.com and ordering stuff. It might get shipped from a number of different companies. Mm-hmm. We're going to have the same thing set up, but
these will be businesses that support the fair tax and will donate a portion of each sale to the fair tax. And that's going to wrap up this edition of Fair Tax Power Radio. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
The FAIRtax Guys reminding you the fair tax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Follow the FAIRtax Guys on social media and their own website, fairtaxguys.com.